Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew, and welcome to this week's episode. Man, we've got a lot of people watching live, which has me super jacked up. And for those of you that are watching live over on YouTube, over on TikTok, over on our Facebook page, thank you for dropping in tonight. Luckily, I mean we've got the Falcons and Bucks up here on the big screen. Not really a whole lot to talk about with that. But yes, we have a lot to talk about. So thank you guys and gals for dropping in and sharing your Thursday night with me. And for those of you that are listening in on the audio side, the true OGs of the Turbo and 2K show, whether you have us in your ears on the treadmill or in the car, thank you so much. And we've got a lot to talk about. We're gonna have the normal segments. You know, we're going to talk some college football. We're going to talk some NFL. We've got Turbo's top 5 power rankings, and we have our picks selection segment. But man, it just seems like a lot of that is completely and utterly irrelevant right now. I guess you could kind of, I'm not going to say I've got boots on the ground because I'm definitely not in Ann Arbor. We're about 2.5 hours away. We're actually closer to Notre Dame than we are in Ann Arbor, but there's news at both campuses. I mean, we kind of touched on some of the news in South Bend last week, and boy, oh boy, there was quite the response. So when I was this weekend kind of trying to put together how I wanted to do the show, up until yesterday, I was going to go full scorched earth. I mean, it was going to be just a Notre Dame show, but University of Michigan had a lot to say about that. And there's a lot of I'm sure if you know we've got a lot of folks watching over on Twitter, and if you were scrolling Twitter yesterday as I was, man, bombshell after bombshell. And I guess it's kind of unfortunate that the day and time that we live in, we kind of have to question the legitimacy of a lot of the stuff. So it's like, is this real? This can't be real? This is real. But it was just a wild trip, and now that the dust has kind of settled, I want to get into a little bit of that, kind of give you my reaction. For those of you that have been following the show for quite a while, know I am a diehard Notre Dame fan. And if you're coming here to see me just pile on what happened in Ann Arbor yesterday, you've got the wrong show. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what happens now. And there's been a lot of folks already talking about this, but I think I'm going to be coming at it a little bit different. So I hope you guys and gals are locked in. Hope you're locked in. And as always, we're going to start the program off with some news. It was leading up to this, it was going to be Notre Dame and baseball's winter meetings, which as a Red Sox fan didn't have a whole lot of action, but there was some of the big names come off the board as we saw the winter meetings go on. First and foremost, this is from the ESPN. Breaking: first baseman Pete Alonso and the Baltimore Orioles are finalizing a 5-year, $155 million contract, sources tell Jeff Passan. Got breaking news alert from Jeff Passan through the ESPN app, which, nice little plug there. This is huge. For the O's. If you look at that young core and adding a vet in there that's not only, been around the block, has playoff experience, this could be huge. And you keep him out of the lineup from like a Red Sox team, a Yankees team, and ultimately the Dodgers, which I'm pretty sure as a baseball community, we're actively rooting that the Dodgers don't acquire anyone else, because geez, oh Pete's. So yeah, that was him and Schwarber, which we'll get to Schwarber here in a second, were the top dogs, and rightfully so, especially when it comes to the position players that a lot of folks were really looking forward to seeing where they were going, the amount they were signing for, and the years, because these are, I'm not going to say older players. I mean, hell, I think Alonso's 31, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, you're signing. I guess you could say he looks to be aging, but as far as the money is concerned, I think it was actually a very, very reasonable contract for the O's. So kudos to the O's. They have their big bopper, they have their first baseman and DH for at least the next 5 years. From Jeff Passan, closer Kyle Finnegan in the Detroit Tigers are in agreement on a 2-year, $19 million contract pending physical. Sources tell ESPN Finnegan was excellent after joining the team at the trade deadline and returns on a multi-year deal. First on the agreement by Robert Murphy. And I know this was not the kind of headline grabber that the Tigers fans were hoping for. You know, if you follow any of the Detroit guys, they're all just salivating over Alex Bregman. And Boston fans as well. I mean, Boston missed out on Alonso, missed out on Schwarber. It's like, okay, now this is something we have to do. This is an absolute necessity. We still haven't seen, I really haven't heard a whole lot when it comes to him. So I'm from the last reports I saw that the Red Sox are still kind of the major player in that, and there's been a lot of reports that he kind of regrets opting out of his the contract he was under last year because the market isn't nearly what he kind of planned on it being. So how true that is, I'm not really sure, but Breggy, come on back to Boston. Come on back to Boston. And we talked about Kyle Schwarber. This one was kind of where I thought he was going to end up. This is from Jeff Passan. Breaking slugger Kyle Schwarber and the Philadelphia Phillies are finalizing a 5-year, $150 million contract. Sources tell ESPN the NL MVP runner-up, one of the best home run hitters and clubhouse leaders in baseball, is returning to Philadelphia. And I think if there was some sort of betting odds on this, that's was going to be the overwhelming favorite. He seems to love it there, and it seems him and Bryce are going to be there for at least the next handful of years. And it was a bat that Philly desperately needed to keep in their lineup. So it was, again, not a big shocker here. Not a big shocker here. But this one kind of left me scratching my head. Again, from Jeff Passan, closer Edwin Diaz's deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers is for 3 years, $69 million. Sources tell ESPN the Dodgers, who were targeting bullpen help this winter, got the best closer on the market, setting a new AAV record for relievers. Now, you might be telling yourself, well, Turbo, why is that so shocking? Well, the Mets just went out and signed Devin Williams. So you might be saying, well, of course, they're going to sign Devin Williams, which means they're not going to sign Edwin Diaz. But why not both? Why not both and have one of the most locked down bullpens in the game? You know, with that, after the spending barrage that the Mets went on, including Juan Soto, I think a lot of us were expecting more. So why not, get the two best closers or the two best relievers on the market in-house, especially when you already had one in there last year. So it's like, to me, that's what I was expecting. And to see him go to the Dodgers, yes, we talked about it. No one really wants to see top free agents land with the Dodgers, but money's money. Money, like I said, he set a new AAV for closers. So wasn't an overpay by the Dodgers? Is that really a thing? I mean, seriously, it might be overpay for other organizations, but as far as the Dodgers are concerned, was it? I mean, the Dodgers are in their own stratosphere when it comes to that. So now the big question remaining is, and the rumors that I've been seeing is, are we? I almost don't want to put it in the ether, but so many other people have. Are we kind of? Is it kind of meant to be that Tarek Skubal ends up in LA? Hate to see it. That starting rotation is already nasty enough, and then add him over there. I mean, that would. There are a lot of people saying, well, you know what, with the impending lockout, let's just start it in 2026 if that happens. I'm still in the camp where I firmly believe that the Tigers need to retain him and need to sign him. I've been on that soapbox for about 2.5 years now to get him extended, but Scott Boras guy, he's going to wait till the very end to sign an extension or actually test free agency. and which is the thing that the Tigers do not want to happen, because if he does walk, they get nothing. So it's trade him now while his value's high. I mean, 2-time Cy Young Award winner, back to back. It's not going to get, I mean, could he get better? Sure. But how much more better? How much better? So strike, and if they are going to trade him, strike while the iron's hot, and come to Boston. Boston has the ammo to get him anything but the Dodgers. Please, 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 please. One more bit of news here. We have Heisman finalists. This is coming from Bussin' with the Boys. The 2025 Heisman Trophy finalists. We've got Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. We've got Fernando Mendoza from Indiana, Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, and Julian Sayin from Ohio State. All very, very qualified and right. I mean, they're very deserving. So kudos to those guys. But I think I did look up the oddly enough, FanDuel did not have the Heisman odds, but Mendoza is minus 1,800. Pavia is plus 900. Love's plus 25,000, and Julian Sayin is plus 50,000. So it is what it is. It is what it is, and especially coming off the huge Big Ten win for Indiana. I think right, Mendoza, he's the best quarterback out of all these guys, and I think that if we would have saw Jeremiah Love a little bit more in the Miami game, a little bit more in the Texas A&M game, and he had monster games against those two teams, I think you would see these odds be a little bit. Mendoza would still probably be leading, but I think if having big games in those two games, and ironically enough were the only two losses, that it seemed like they had a hard time getting Love going. And I don't know if it was, first game of the year, first 2 games of the year, the Heisman hype, where maybe it was nerves, maybe he was trying to do too much. And all he really needed to do was just be him. And we saw that the rest of the season. And to have him there it's the first Notre Dame Heisman finalist since Manti Te'o. So it's cool. It's cool that he's there. He deserves to be there. He, in my opinion, he's the most electric player in college football. How much will that? It doesn't seem like it's tipping the odds any. And history has told us if the year ends in 5, a running back usually wins it. So, but like I said, he sharing the backfield. I think unlike Ashton Jeanty last year, where he was the horse, 250. It seemed like he was getting 250 yards and 4 touchdowns every single game. That's just not the backfield that Notre Dame was running. So to compare him stat-wise to Ashton Jeanty is a little bit unfair, but I can totally see where people are coming from with that argument. So that's the news. That's the news. And I know it's not the what you guys and gals clicked over to see, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We are getting there. How's everyone's night going? How's everyone's night going? Let's flip the script to college football. And let's get to, I have a very good feeling why everyone is here. What happened yesterday? I have questions. I probably don't have a whole lot of answers, just like most everyone. But I think some of the questions I have are going to be different than the ESPN heads or any of the other heads talking about this. And like I alluded to, scrolling Twitter yesterday, even into last night, was just an unreal experience. I've been on Twitter when something like this happens, but it hasn't happened to the level with so much just made up shit and outlandish shit and just stuff that never even happened. So when I was saving these tweets to bring on the show, it's like, okay, can't use that one. community noted, this is a parody account, this and this and this and this. It's like, whoa, why? And this would be the last two shows would be perfect shows for 2Ks. I'm the Notre Dame fan, he's the Michigan fan. Where last week when I was talking about Notre Dame getting into the playoff, he would have been the hero to more than half of the people that watched my content last week. But it's, again, growing up a Notre Dame fan where I live, I've been getting it my entire life. So keep hating, I guess. We'll get to that here. Well, I'll kind of stop the boat there, but we'll get to that. We'll address that. But for those of you that might be living under a rock, you might be saying, "Well, Turbo, what the hell are you talking about?" This is a tweet from Rob Reinhart. #breaking. Sources have provided me with the graphic details leading up to the arrest of former Michigan head coach Sherrone Moore. During an argument with his wife, Moore threatened to kill himself, then drove to and broke into the home of his assistant, where he held a knife to his own throat and threatened to kill both himself and the staffer. He was then intercepted at a local church after his wife provided his cell phone location to the authorities. He is now in protective custody. Just a tragic chain of events for all involved. So yeah, that's when you're scrolling Twitter and you see something like that. And it started out as, #breaking. Michigan fires Sherrone Moore with cause. Now, you might be asking yourself, what does with cause mean? Well, with cause means it's something other than he sucks, or his coaching style isn't working, or something just isn't working. It has to be for something that violates the academic or the university bylaws, something in writing. He's breaking a rule, not so much that he sucks. We saw Brian Kelly get fired from LSU because his team sucked. They were not living up to expectation. They weren't performing the way that the alumni and the staff and everyone else thought that he should. And he was fired without cause, meaning everything that was left, or the guaranteed money, or everything that was left on his contract, is still owed to him. Now, when you're fired with cause, like Sherrone Moore did, you get nothing. You get nothing. Zip, zero. There's the door. Sorry about it. And he was getting ready to get paid almost $13 million. And it's like, all right, what? And it's still something that I'm trying to wrap my brain around. So let's get to the next one. This is from Clay Travis. This is from earlier today. Arraignment for Sherrone Moore tomorrow in Ann Arbor, with charges likely to be publicly announced then. Fact, he's still in custody suggests charges will be very serious. So this wasn't, this was just not something that normally happens. Yes, we see people, coaches fired all the time. And we've seen coaches being fired with cause multiple times. Look at Mel Tucker at MSU just up the road. That was with cause. But this is the first time I can ever remember a coach being fired with or without cause and then being arrested. And if you look at the circumstances, he was having allegedly having an extramarital affair with a staffer that he not only promoted and gave a pay increase, but was cheating on his wife with. And that's something that I think all of us can agree is not good. And you shouldn't do it. And Michigan has in its bylaws that the coaching staff cannot have this type of relationship, whether married or unmarried, with any of the staffers. So that right there is with cause. And then the more you kind of dig into this, it gets a little bit more gloomy. This is from Nicole Auerbach, and I've followed Nicole for quite a long time. She is a very reputable source, which is why I wanted to include this, just to kind of, I'm not going to say put a bow on things, but she tweets, Michigan had been alerted prior to Wednesday that Sherrone Moore was dealing with mental health issues, yet Ward Manuel fired him alone with no HR rep and no security present, sources told at NBC Sports. So they knew they were kind of going in talking to someone that's not right. And I knew when the story broke, and I was even talking to my wife, I'm like, I know where a lot of people are going to be going with this. And they're going to be completely like, okay, well, this Michigan football team is absolutely fucked. Who are they going to get to coach now? Are they even going to play in the Cheez-It Bowl? I mean, what's going to happen to our recruits? I mean, Bryce Underwood, is he leaving? There's all these football questions, and I'm sitting here going, and that was before I saw Nicole's tweet. It's like, what's going on with him? What's going on with him? Because, like I said, we've seen coaches get fired in the past. It happens all the time. We've seen it with or without cause. Doesn't matter. It's something that's inherent to the job. But to go berserk and get arrested, there has to. And Adam Schefter came out today and said, before we cast judgment, we have to wait and see what Sherrone says. Which I'm not gonna. As far as casting judgment, he was having an affair, and regardless of whatever happened after the firing, is obviously what he's going to be in trouble for. But that's the part I'm like, what's going on here? There has to be something deeper. There has to be something that I don't know. And there's probably, it's something that probably only he knows. And since Nicole's tweet came out, it's like, okay, it gives you a little bit more insight as to what we're dealing with. And I'm not saying what he did was right. I just hope he gets help. And you could say he was a shit coach on the field. He was, just an absolute terrible hire from the beginning. That's all fine and good. You can talk about, and there's a lot of people that are, which I'm curious to see. And Pete Thamel went on McAfee this morning and said that this was brought to the university's attention months ago by an anonymous tip, but their investigation did not conclude anything. So it was just kind of dropped up until now. And there's a lot of people that are saying that this was known quite a while ago, and they wanted to wait until after signing day. And if that's the case, that is complete and utter bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit. And the fact that all of these people are, it was brought to CBS News or whatever it was. Let me bring it up again. NBC Sports, that this was alerted prior to Wednesday that he was dealing with mental health issues. And I'm not saying that is a reason why you don't fire him. And there's a lot of people that are raising the point that if Michigan had beaten Ohio State yet again, would any of this be coming to light? And I'm kind of torn on that. And it's something that if it comes out that this has been, if Michigan had known about this for months, and this is just kind of their way to get out from under the contract and get him out of there, it wouldn't shock me one bit. I think there are, and I was even talking to a lot of my Michigan friends that, because I was just under the impression, and maybe this is just me being not a Michigan fan and just a naive person, that Sherrone was, the right-hand man of Jim Harbaugh. And we saw a lot of Michigan fans ride through some shitty seasons with Jim Harbaugh. Now, Jim Harbaugh didn't have the number one quarterback recruit and didn't have nearly the amount of financial backing that Coach Moore has, but just 2 years into uh, his coaching tenure here, you're just ready to get rid of him. And yes, I even going back to the Harbaugh's tenure, there was a lot of folks that were not happy until he beat Ohio State, and then that couple seasons later, the national title, and Sherrone was a part of that. And there's a lot of people saying that 11 people from that staff have been arrested already. So what does that ultimately mean? I don't know. Like I told you from the jump, like I have more questions, as I'm sure everyone that's watching this does, and has zero answers. And I have a feeling it's one of those things that we really won't get to know all of the answers. And I'm not even sure if Sherrone's going to speak about it, because I'm sure it's definitely not his most shining moment in life. His marriage is done. He's got kids. He's going to jail. He's not getting his $13 million from Michigan. Excuse me. So yeah, this is probably the lowest moment of his life, and I don't know too many people that really want to outwardly talk about that, especially this close after you got caught doing it, and then the extra activity afterwards, which is the kind of the ultimate, which is why the police were called anyway. So it's just a huge mess. It is an absolutely huge mess, and excuse me, like I said leading up to this, that I was more worried, like, what is going on with him. So let's talk about the football side of it. Okay, let's talk about let's. I'll give you guys and gals a minute for that to set in. All right, so let's talk about the football side of this. Yeah, it is the worst time ever to fire a coach. Worst time ever. Especially since we were harping on Penn State for the longest time for not filling their coaching vacancy, in which they just did. And it's like, all right, well, all the good ones are gone. Who's Penn State going to get? Well, now Michigan enters into that, where I'm not going to say it's like one of the last seats at at the party. I'm not saying that. Michigan still is one of the premier programs in the country, even with this. And I think a lot of Michigan fans are going to kind of breathe a sigh of relief that, ah, let's just, let's just clean house, get everyone that was associated with Harbaugh out of there. Let's just start from scratch and not have anything else hanging over our heads. And if I was a Michigan fan, I think I would be leaning towards that. Just get it all out. I mean, top to bottom, top to bottom. just to get a hard reset, because it seems like every single like really weird and bad allegation has been coming out of Ann Arbor for the last handful of years. And I'm sure it's got to be frustrating. It's got to be just irritating as a Michigan fan to endure that all the time. Now, I'm not saying that Michigan fans would say, yeah, we would give back that national title to not put up with all this bullshit, but there's some might. Some actually might. So as far as the football thing is concerned, we've got the actual transfer portal opening up, I think January 2nd, I believe. And as soon as Michigan names a new head coach, I think the current players on the team, including the players that just signed their letters of intent, have 5 days to transfer, which it's like, okay, if I don't transfer now, I still have an opportunity if they hire a coach between now and, like I said, I believe it's January 2nd. I've got two opportunities here, and there was already some buzz around Bryce Underwood not being super happy because of the offense they ran. It wasn't, I mean, Michigan isn't really a place to go if you want to air it out and, throw for 300 or 400 yards a game. And as Michigan fans, you really didn't see that from him yet. I'm not saying he can't, but is the juice worth the squeeze there? As much as the NIL is with him, is it worth it? Is it worth it? And so there was already grumblings there. So it's something to keep an eye on if he's going to stay, or is he transferring elsewhere? And I think if he's going to go, a player of his stature or anyone else that is very impactful on that team, whether offense or defense, if they're planning on transferring, they will the first opportunity they can. And I would not blame them one bit. I would not blame them a single bit. I would not wait to see if they don't hire a new coach before the transfer portal opens. The longer they wait, the more it just breeds unknown. And when you're, as a college athlete, you have your red shirt in 4 years. That's it. So if I was in their shoes, unless it's, there's been, Kalen DeBoer and Marcus Freeman and all these outlandish coaching names, John Gruden, floated around that I think is kind of unrealistic, except for John Gruden. I could see that. I could see that. And the reason I say that is let's put two and two together. This last year and a half, 2 years, he's been saying that he sees himself coaching again. Where does he work? Barstool. Who owns Barstool? Dave Portnoy. And Dave was kind of the spearhead to get Bryce Underwood on campus. So I could see that as a possibility. I think it's much more. Does John Gruden, is that the place where John Gruden wants to come out of retirement and coach? That's the real question. But as far as some other like actual legit coaching prospects, I had to search long and hard because there was, I mean, it seemed like every single webpage or website I went to, it was, I mean, hell, the only coach I didn't see on there was Bill Belichick, and rightfully so with his very lackluster performance in North Carolina. But let's actually talk about some legitimate potential hires. How about the head coach at Washington, Jed Fish? Says he's a former Wolverines assistant. So he has links to Michigan. Says if the Wolverines can pay out his Washington deal, we imagine Fish might make the jump to Ann Arbor and take over as head coach. I think with the list that I've seen, with the let me continue to hammer this home. The realistic potential hires is Jesse Minter. It says Minter is one of the brightest branches from the Jim Harbaugh tree, and he's likely to follow in Mike McDonald's footsteps as a future NFL head coach. However, what if he's intrigued by the idea of returning to Michigan? Well, he won a national title under Harbaugh in January of 2024 as the team's defensive coordinator. Minter would be a slam dunk hire from an X's and O's standpoint for Michigan, who also knows the program quite well. The only problem is he going to leave being the defensive coordinator for the Chargers? I don't know if I can ever remember any NFL coach leaving his team to go to a college team in the middle of the NFL season. I'm sure it's happened. I just, if it has, I can't remember. But if I'm a Michigan fan, I'm very, very intrigued. How about Indiana's defensive coordinator Bryant Hayes says, if you want to beat your arch nemesis Ohio State, why not hire the Indiana coaching staff that just beat the Buckeyes? Not a bad idea. Maryland offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton. Now this is legit because Maryland's not in the playoffs. Hamilton is one of the most respected minds in football, particularly in quarterback development. If the Wolverines want to take quarterback Bryce Underwood's development to the next level, bring back Hamilton to Ann Arbor, and it would make a ton of sense. He worked as the assistant head coach and passing game coordinator under Harbaugh in 2017 through 18. He's not been a college head coach before, but might be the right opportunity. Then it goes into some other kind of like really like Charles Woodson. I mean, they say in an era where schools are hiring former players as first-time coaches, hiring Woodson would probably be the biggest public relations win in the schools that the school could land. Does he have any coaching experience? That's what I would be most worried at. Not if it's a good PR move. Yeah, it would be cool. if anyone could get swag back to Michigan, that would be Charles Woodson oozes swag. Probably be a great recruiter too. But it's when we talk about all of these potential hires, it's the timeline that I keep coming back to. It's the timeline. This is terrible timing. Absolutely terrible. So, as a Michigan fan, I get it. You're going through it. You're going through it. And I don't know if it's just someone in Ann Arbor sold their soul to get that national title, and this is just the repercussions of that, or if that place is completely out of control. I don't know. But I think as Michigan fans, you guys deserve better. I do. This isn't something that needs to be continually swirling around. I get it. And if I was in your spot, I would be so frustrated. So frustrated. All right. I don't want to go too much into the Notre Dame thing just because it's Thursday. This happened on Sunday. Which, FYI, if they do continue to do this selection show, can we do it on Tuesday? I mean, you did it during NFL Sunday. Excuse me. You're competing with the NFL, which is the biggest sports league in the country. Why not do it on Tuesday when you own the day? Just my little bitch here, but own the day. Own it. You did it all. Every selection show was on Tuesday, and this is something that they do it every week, and it's just to drive views, just to drive ratings. I get it. And there's been a lot of folks that have been like, well, I would just like to see one selection show like they do for March Madness. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine all of that, not knowing where you stand as a team, where there's pretty much no certainty? Well, I shouldn't say no certainty, but not a lot of certainty when it comes to this type of thing. What I think with the weekly shows, you kind of get to see and kind of get to know, this rendition of the committee. But on the other hand, you want to talk about ratings. Geez, oh Pete's. If they did just did the one college football selection show, just one. Here's the 12. Bada boom, bada bing. That would be, you want to talk about people being pissed. Yes, there's Notre Dame fans pissed. Yes, there's BYU fans pissed. Yes, there's this fan base pissed. But you want to talk about people being pissed. I think that would just raise the anxiety of everybody. So, and if you followed the show for any amount of time, I've even going back to week one, I was like, it's the first week. It only matters on the last week. Little did I know that that last week would come back and bite my team in the ass. Which a lot of you, I want to say thank you for watching my content throughout the week, just because, man, oh man, lots of views, lots of views, lots of views, lots of hate, which is fine, which is fine. If you don't have haters, that means you're not doing something right. So, and I'm not I will never apologize for my fanhood. I will never apologize for that. So, if you guys want to continue hating, keep hating. But I did pull a couple things here that I wanted to let breathe here a little bit. This is from Aaron Taylor. This is kind of I was when I was putting the show together, I did not label this really well, but I was hoping this was the first one. College football needs to decide whether it wants to be the NFL or the WWE, because right now it's out here scripting WrestleMania finishes and selling them as complete integrity. GTFOH, hashtag go Irish. Well said. Well said. Here's another one. I agree with this 1,000%. This is Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is inside the Irish. One thing I've learned over the past few days, you either love or hate Notre Dame. No in between. 1,000%. 1,000%. And this one here, I actually had to read a couple times, and the more I read it, the more I agreed with it. And let me read it, and then I'll kind of go into some of my thoughts here. This is from J5 Sports. Notre Dame's independence is one of the last truly unique things about college football compared to the NFL. Number one, the Big Ten and SEC already basically resemble the AFC NFC. Every year, the champion is likely to come from one of those two conferences. Number two, players are getting paid. Number three, transfer portal with no limitations is basically free agency. Number four, general managers and other front office type staffers make college team structure much more similar to the structure of the NFL teams. The soul of the sport is dying. While the SEC and Big Ten gut the sport we love, you have one big brand standing up to it all in Notre Dame. Yet all people do is complain and whine about Notre Dame's independence. It is truly bizarre. If you hate Notre Dame being independent, you hate college football, go root for your local NFL team instead. Now, I'm not going as far as, kind of the last little part of that. But why are people so upset that Notre Dame is independent? Why? Why is that? And for those of you that are upset, do you know why Notre Dame is independent? Because if you don't, you might want to take a little Google trip. If you don't want to, I'll give you the highlights. There was a reason why Knute Rockne was taking this team all over the country. Why we started rivalries with USC, with Stanford, with the Naval Academies or the Armed Forces Academies. Because when Notre Dame tried to get into the Big Ten to begin with, the Big Ten said no. Because you're Catholic. So to find people to play, because back then, no one wanted to be associated with the Catholic University. So that's why Notre Dame is kind of a national brand, because they had to in the beginning. In the beginning. And especially with the 12 team, which I think I like it at 12. And I think even if we move it to 16, we're going to be arguing about team 17 and 18 that got snubbed. So regardless of how many teams it is, we're always going to be talking about the teams on the outside looking in. Hands down. We do it with March Madness all the time. And so yes, I have a feeling it is going to 16. I think it's kind of inevitable, especially with what happened this year with in the second year of the 12-team playoff. And So when there's more opportunities like that, more opportunities meaning more at-large bids to get into the playoffs, it's leaning more towards Notre Dame being independent is just fine. Just fine. I do think that if Notre Dame were to get away from the ACC ties with the other schools, I think it would be more advantageous for the football program, just because the ACC is not very good right now. And having to schedule either 5 or 6 games against the ACC every single year limits a lot of the teams that Notre Dame can play, and still have the rivalries that mean so much to not only our university but the other ones. USC we're still not so sure about, but in a day and time where we see all of these rivalries go by the wayside because of conference expansion, as a Notre Dame fan, makes me more apt to say we need to stay independent and keep what we have. And the more teams that are allowed to get into the playoffs now, when it was just 2, it was harder for everyone to get it, regardless of what conference you were in, or if you were an independent. Then it opened to 4, and we saw Notre Dame get into that playoff. And then we saw them last year when it went to 12. So the fact of the matter that Notre Dame needs to join a conference, it's total bullshit. You guys, why do you guys get to do this? Well, it's not that we get to do it; it's we had to. I say we like I was on the bus with Newt. They had to. As a team, as a university, had to in order to play. So for those of you that are completely hating, do me a quick Google search, because I think you'll find out that it's not just because, like last year, Notre Dame got $20 million for making the national title game. And they didn't have to split it amongst anyone because they're independent. And with these investors talking about getting into the Big Ten, and Michigan and USC not really wanting them to, and if they ultimately do, like we're seeing already happen in Utah, which anytime you talk about investment people and selling out part of your brand, that ultimately scares me. Because once you open the door, it's hard to stop. It's hard to stop. And I've read many articles and tweets about if that happens, USC and Michigan are looking to go independent themselves. So if you're a fan of those teams telling Notre Dame to join a conference, if certain things happen, your team might be looking at being independent. What are you going to say then? Michigan, join a conference. UFC, join a conference. Don't be like Notre Dame. Join a conference, pussies. I got a lot of that. Got a lot of that last week. I was called pussy. I was called a bunch of stuff, and I really don't care. I really don't care. I will do this show if no one watches, because I enjoy doing it. It's more fun when people watch, which we've got over 100 people on the stream right now. So thank you so much. So yeah, just think about it. And I know for a lot of people I'm asking a lot. I really am. But take 5 minutes, do a Google search, and see why Notre Dame is independent. And one last one here. Gotta love Will Compton. And this is actually, I'm not saying it's hard to argue, but it's something I didn't really think about. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it was worth putting up here. Tweet from Will Compton. What if I told you that Miami only got in because Virginia lost? That big conference and the deep state of college football had a quote-unquote squeeze-out operation in place in case Duke won the ACC. Not sure why there's a question mark there. Excuse me. That they decided 2 weeks ago, after they quote-unquote randomly moved ND back to number 10, that Alabama would be protected at all costs after they survived Auburn, which we talked about last week, and that they'd use BYU as collateral damage if Virginia couldn't secure the ACC bid. that the quote unquote head to head angle is just a distraction to teach Notre Dame a lesson since they haven't followed the corporate model of joining a conference. Like I said, I'm not saying that I totally agree with that, but it makes sense. It makes sense. So kudos to you, Will. Kudos to you. let's lighten the mood here a little bit. We've talked a lot of college football. We talked a lot of bad stuff. Let's talk about some good stuff. I guess the baseball stuff was kind of some good stuff. But let's get to our next segment. Let's talk about Turbo's power rankings, the top 5 power rankings in the NFL. In the NFL. As soon as I find my window, give me 1 second here. Just to kind of recap from last week, I had Broncos 5, Seahawks 4, Bills 3, Rams 2, Pats 1. And I'm sorry to say that not a lot's changed. Not a lot's changed. The only thing I will say is that I'm not in love with the Broncos. I'm not in love with how they win. Yes, they're winning. I believe they're 10-2. So they're winning. But no, they're 11-2. Excuse me. I guess it has to be Bo Nix's play, and I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not overwhelming. Let's put it that way. And in an AFC where you could, I was listening to Scott Van Pelt earlier today on SV Pod, and he put it magically. He's like, you could take and pull not a random, but like the top 5 teams from the AFC out of a hat and tell me that that's the team that's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. I'd be like, okay. And once he started saying that, I'm like, you know what? I could see that. I could see that. So I'm not in love with the Broncos. But a team I am warming up to is the Texans. This Texans defense is legit. We're seeing CJ Stroud kind of get back to that rookie year form. The offense is healthy. The offensive line is improving. It's still not fantastic. But as far as the power rankings are concerned, on December 11th, 2025, give me the Texans at 5. And the other 4 haven't changed. Give me Seahawks 4, Bills 3, Rams 2, Pats 1. So not a lot of shakeup here. Where some of the shakeup is concerned is in my honorable mentions. I'll throw the Broncos. If this was the top 6, I would put the Broncos at 6. Like I said, I'm just not sold yet. And I don't know what it's going to take to sell me on them, but I'm just not sold. The Jags, I'm not sold on them either. But if you look at that division, they're 1 game up on Houston. The Colts are dead. So it's looking like it's going to come down to Jacksonville and Houston for the AFC South, which we'll get into the standings here in a little bit. But it's like, okay, both of these teams are gaining traction at the right time. That Jacksonville defense is very good. I just don't know which Trevor Lawrence you're going to get. I don't. And if I'm going to wager, if I'm going to put money on it, I would take CJ Stroud over Lawrence, at least right now. At least right now. The Eagles, what is this team? What are they doing? I don't know. I don't know. So even though they're 8-5, I can't. I have no idea what to do with them. And the Chargers had a big win. We saw Justin Herbert with a broken hand, stiff arming people with that hand, get a big win. I believe it was Monday night. Get a big win. So, like I said, they're definitely not top 5, but they deserve an honorable mention from me for sure. Let's talk about some bets here, 2K crew. Let's talk about some bets. See that? Oh, by the way, see that right there? Since I started this segment, we're 31-23, increasing our unit lead. 2K crew, love it, love it. We're seeing the board. Last week we went. Where the hell is it? I went 3-2 last week, and I actually gave you a teaser last week in Western Michigan over Miami of Ohio. That hit too. I'm not counting that just because I said it was a little extra. But yeah, we went 3-2. We went 3-2. So we've got some great momentum going. So yeah, absolutely love it. We would have been 4-1 if the old hook hadn't got us with the Bears plus 6.5. A damn hook will get you every time. So for those of you that are not do not know the Paycheck and Onion segment, it is my pick segment where I give you 5 picks every week, 3 to sprinkle on, a paycheck pick, meaning the most confident pick of the week, aka lay your paycheck on. Would not do that. That is not gambling advice. And Onions pick, which is the ballsiest pick of the week. So let's get into our sprinkles here. And this is Army Navy weekend, so there really isn't. They're the only game in town when it comes to college, so you're going to see a lot of NFL here on the board. But it's Army Navy weekend. Give me Navy minus 6.5. This Navy team's legit. I really like what they're doing, and Army really isn't that good. So give me Navy minus 6. The next sprinkle. You got the Colts at Seahawks. This is one. Colts, what are we doing? What are we doing? You were one of the best teams in football like 4 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. What happened? What the hell is going on in Indy? McAfee, you need to get your team together. I know Danny Dimes is hurt. I know he's out for the year now. I got some stuff about that team here that we'll get to here in a little bit, but Colts go to the Seahawks. That 13.5 is a big number. It's a big number. Phillip Rivers starting quarterback. Even if it's my boy Riley Leonard, love his heart, love everything he's about. This Seahawks team is legit. Give me I hate to say it, but give me the Seahawks minus 13.5. Last sprinkle, Broncos. Broncos, where are we at here? Packers at Broncos. Packers are favored by 2.5. Even though I told you I'm not in love with this Broncos team, but I'm also not in love with the Packers. I'm not. So give me Broncos plus 2.5. Your paycheck pick of the week, Chargers. Chargers go to Kansas City. This Chargers team is playing with a lot of momentum. The Chiefs are not. The Chiefs haven't looked this bad in a long time. And I've said it before. I think the only way the Chiefs happen to come out with a victory is if it's some sort of aid from the officials. Maybe. I'm not saying it's the only way, but this Charger, like I said, the Chargers have momentum. The Chiefs do not. The Chiefs are in a lot of trouble. So give me the Chargers. Plus 5.5 is a lot of points. So give me the Chargers plus 5.5. If I was picking just money lines, yes, give me Chargers money line on this one. But since we're doing an ATS, give me Chargers plus 5.5. And the Onions pick of the week, and I've got Broncos on here twice. That's supposed to be Bengals, not Broncos. Bengals plus 2.5. Ravens go to Cincinnati. So please, just in your mind, that Onions pick should be Bengals, not Broncos. Joey B's spinning the ball. Joey B in Buffalo in the snow. Look good. T. Higgins is healthy. That offense is legit. The defense is not. But again, another team that, what are they? What's going on with Lamar? What's going on with this whole Ravens team? They had a little bit of a resurgence there where the defense was looking like, okay, we're getting players back. We're getting healthy. And then Lamar gets dinged up and the whole team is just taking a shit. So especially if you're giving me points, give me the Bengals plus 2.5. Like I said, should not be Broncos, should be Bengals. Bengals. So let's get into our NFL preview of the week. I teased it. I teased it. But what are we doing here? This is Ari Miroff. Philip Rivers has 10 kids, 2 daughters who are already married, 1 grandson. He's 44 years old, and he's coming back to play in the NFL after being out for 5 years. The script writers worked overtime on this one. And what about this one? Fun fact, Philip Rivers' oldest kid is older than Tyler Warren. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I understand that they're in a pickle. You know, where the only reason that Anthony Richardson is not playing is because a stretch band smacked him in the eye. He had a broken eye socket or something up in this area, which is still causing him to be on injured reserve. Riley Leonard has a banged up knee, and Daniel Jones is already underwent surgery, I believe, for his Achilles. So we're left watching Philip Rivers at 44, and the reason that they brought him in is because I guess the story goes that he's been running Shane Steichen's offense for his kids' high school team, and him and Coach Steichen talk every week about checks and kind of what's working, what's not. So he knows the offense. He knows the offense. Now, if you're watching McAfee, they showed a tweet that said, so what you're saying is the Colts have been running a high school offense the whole season. I wouldn't go that route. I'm not saying it's that, but Colts, my gosh. A handful of weeks ago, you sat at the top of my power rankings for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. Now we got Phil Rivers slinging it at 44 years old. I just hope he doesn't die. And if I'm remembering correctly, let's see here, schedule. Just so I'm not speaking out of school here. Next week, week 16, Monday Night Football. Say the 49ers go to Lucas Oil. So the whole world will be able to see 44-year-old Philip Rivers on Monday Night Football. Okay. And we have to remind ourselves, yes, Jim Irsay, God rest his soul, is no longer with us. But rewind, fired Frank Wright, hired Jeff Saturday. Should this shock you? No. It just seems like there would be a better option. Yes, I know it's week 15 in the NFL season. It's almost impossible to bring in someone that doesn't know the offense. I get that. But Philip Rivers? Okay. So let's take a peek at the standings here, shall we? Patriots are ahead in the AFC East. They're the number 1 team in the AFC period, with the Bills right behind them at 9-4. AFC North, Steelers got a big win last week. They're 7-6. Baltimore 6-7, with the Bengals still not eliminated at 4-9. The Browns, however, have been eliminated. So have the Jets. Dolphins still hanging in there. We talked about the South with the Jags, Texans, and Colts. Tennessee has, with their 2 wins, not making it. AFC West, we've got the Broncos leading that 11-2. Chargers at 9-4. Chiefs at 6-7. So if you're a Chiefs fan, you pretty much have to win out and have a lot of shit happen. Because the people that are ahead of the Chiefs right now, they have already beaten the Chiefs. So they do not, they're even if they win every single game, they still need help. So if you're a Chiefs fan, I know it's kind of uncharted water here, at least lately. And the way that team's been looking, for them to win out is not likely. Not likely. Let's switch over to the NFC. Eagles lead the East with the Cowboys right on their ass. Eagles are 8-5. Cowboys 6-1. Stupid fucking tie. Hate every time we do this part of the show. I hate talking about that tie. Hate it. Commanders and Giants have been eliminated. AFC North. Packers are 9-3-1. Again. Bears 9-4. Lions 8-5. Minnesota 5-8. NFC South. Bucks 7-6. Panthers 7-6. This Panthers team, I mean, they don't suck. And if I believe it's tied 7-7 right now. If this Bucks team would have stayed healthy all year, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't just me, but we're talking Baker Mayfield MVP. But it seems like every single person, Baker himself, getting banged up. So now we're sitting here at 7-6. I still have faith that they're going to win that division, even though they have a point differential of -26. Awesome. Just to kind of give you a for instance, NFC North, Packers have a +75 differential. Bears have a -1. Lions have a +90. Vikings have a -26. The Bucks also have a -26. Panthers have a -50. Falcons have a -61. And the Saints have a -109. Let's keep that trend rolling to kind of give you an idea of the differences in the divisions. The Rams lead the West, tied for the lead in the West, 10-3. Seattle 10-3. Niners 9-4. But the Rams have a +152 differential. Seahawks have a +161. Niners have a +38. And the Cardinals, who are eliminated at 3-10, have a -66. That NFC West is legit. I love those top three teams. And for the Niners to just be one game back of the other two, going through all of the injuries they've had, excuse me, and the players on defense that they're not going to get back this year, that's quite a feat. That is quite a feat. So they're the type of team that if they do happen to get into the playoffs, I would not want to play. So let's take a peek at this week's schedule. Let's take a peek here. As I said, we've got the Atlanta at Tampa. It is 7-7. Atlanta has the ball. It's little over 7 minutes left to go in the first half. Cleveland at Chicago. Chicago 7.5-point favorite. Love that. As a Bears fan, love that. Baltimore at Cincy. We talked about that one. Baltimore's 2.5-point favorite. Give me Cincy on that. Chargers at Kansas City. We talked about that one. KC's 5.5-point favorite there. Buffalo at New England. You notice I stayed away from this one. In New England, I mean, why this game's still at 1 o'clock, I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. Because looking ahead, we have Minnesota at Dallas for Sunday Night Football. Wouldn't it make more sense to put this game for Sunday Night Football? Come on, NFL. No, we get it at 1. Get it at 1. If I'm betting this game, because it's Buffalo's favored by 1.5, which is basically a pick 'em. So give me, I would honestly take Buffalo money line here. Would not mess with the spread at 1.5. Washington at the Giants. Who cares? Giants are 2.5-point favorite. Did see Cam Scatabo walking without his boot, which is awesome. Love every part of that. Vegas at Philly. Don't care. Philly's 11.5-point favorite. That's one I would actually probably take Vegas. Give me the points on that. I think Philly wins easily, but 11.5 is a lot of points. Jets at Jacksonville. Jacksonville 13.5-point favorites. Yep. I'll take Jacksonville and the points. And give the points, excuse me. Cardinals at Texans. Texans are 9.5-point favorite. Yep. I will give those points too. Green Bay at Denver, we talked about. Detroit at the Rams. This is one I again love this game. Love that it's in the 4:20 in the 4 o'clock window. This Rams team is really, really good. Really, really good. At times, this Lions team can be really, really good. And yes, it's the Matthew Stafford Bowl. I get that. I get that. That's the low hanging fruit in this game. I would honestly take the Lions +6. I think the Rams win this, but if you're the Lions, you have to win out to win the division. You have to. And if you're going to win out, you got to start with the first one. So this is all hands on deck for Dan Campbell and the boys. And when it comes to that could be a dangerous team. That could be a dangerous team. So six is a big number. So yeah, if it, gun to my head, give me the Lions +6. Carolina at New Orleans. Why is Carolina only a 2.5 point favorite on that? Yeah, give me Carolina. Give me Carolina on that one. Tennessee at San Francisco. San Francisco's 12.5 point favorite. Don't care. San Francisco, yes, love it. Indy at Seattle, we talked about. Seattle 13.5 points. That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. And wouldn't it just be fitting this NFL season, this whole football season, let's be honest, but this NFL season, if Phil Rivers goes into Seattle and gets a dub? I mean, that would blow my mind. Absolutely blow my mind. But in a year where everything has just been completely unpredictable, fuck it, let's do it. Let's do it. I even though on my picks I took Seattle, wouldn't it be fun? Wouldn't it be fun if this Colts team and Phil go over to Seattle and get a big time dub? That would be awesome. Like we talked about, Minnesota at Dallas for the nightcap. Dallas is a 5.5 point favorite. Yep, give me that. And Monday night, we've got Dolphins at Pittsburgh. This is going to be another one of those because it's cold. It's at night. Dolphins don't play well in the cold. This Pittsburgh team is both these teams have been up and down, but Pittsburgh's been the better team throughout the whole season. So yeah, with that one, give me Pittsburgh -3. Give me Pittsburgh -3. Now, if it was in Miami, I think the Dolphins have a little bit better chance, but yeah, Miami at Pittsburgh. You know, does McDaniels go? Does he go joggers, pulled up in the cold? So, I mean that would be a baller move. That would be a baller move. Does he go extreme puffy coat? What's the fit look like for Coach McDaniel? That's what I'm more interested in. I think Pittsburgh wins this game quite easily. But Miami's kind of been on an uptick. But we've seen the way this Miami team plays in the cold. Until that changes, I'm leaning with history on this one. But like I said, I think the more important thing is what type of fit is Coach McDaniels rocking. I need to know. Well, 2K crew, we've went over a lot. We did baseball hot stove. We talked about the most obvious story in all of sports. And like I said, I honestly hope that Coach Moore gets some help. Not help with getting out of this, but mental help. And there really is not an easy answer as to what happens with Michigan football right now. I don't think anyone knows. I do think that Taylor Lewan hit the nail on the head this morning, saying you need to get a coach in there now. And who that is, I have no idea. So it's going to be interesting to watch that unfold and to see the repercussions of all of this, not only with the team, but legally for Coach Moore. So yeah. And you have homework. You have homework. Google why is Notre Dame an independent team? And then tell me how dumb it is. Then tell me how dumb it is. Well, 2K Crew, I'll get you out of here on that. Everyone have a fantastic week. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.